Good morning. It's April 14th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the FBI arresting an American soldier over the Pentagon documents leak. An Air Force guardsman has been arrested on Thursday in connection with leaking the U.S. top defense files. The 21-year-old suspect will make his first court appearance in Boston on Friday. North Korea says that the missile it fired on Thursday was a new Hwasong-18 solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. Kim Jong-un reportedly presided over the launch. And the International Monetary Fund points to South Korea's sluggish chip industry and slow domestic demand as reasons for its latest lowering of the country's economic growth outlook. Just several hours ago, North Korea reported that the missile it fired from Pyongyang on Thursday was a new solid-fuel ICBM dubbed the Hwasong-18. Now, this is concerning as solid-fuel missiles are more difficult to detect. The latest provocation comes ahead of one of the regime's biggest celebrations, the birth anniversary of the founding leader on Saturday. Our Han Sung-woo starts us off.
North Korea says the missile the regime fired on Thursday was a new Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile that uses solid fuel. State media reported on Friday that the missile, moving forward, will be used to carry out the serious duty of war deterrence, and that the test launch has boosted Pyongyang's confidence in the weapon developing into a powerful strategic weapon of greater military utility. The Korean Central News Agency added that all aspects of the test launch performed according to design specifications. Present at the launch was regime leader Kim Jong-un, who reportedly said the new ICBM will greatly enhance the effectiveness of the North's nuclear counterattack posture. Kim also warned that the North will continue responding aggressively to its enemies until they halt their, quote, recklessness and are left shaking in anxiety and fear. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff on Thursday said it had detected at around 7:23 a.m. a missile of intermediate range or longer fired from near Pyongyang. It added the missile was launched at a higher angle than normal and flew about 1,000 kilometers before landing in the East Sea. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Moving on, the FBI has arrested a suspect alleged to be behind the Pentagon documents leak. A 21-year-old Air National Guardsman in Massachusetts was arrested in his home on Thursday. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
An arrest has been made in connection to the leaked Pentagon documents scandal that shook the world last weekend. The announcement was made by U.S. Attorney General Mary Quant on Thursday, local time.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information.
According to the Attorney General, the suspect is a 21-year-old U.S. Air National Guardsman from Massachusetts. Having joined the Guard in 2019, the suspect is a member of the 102nd Intelligence Wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard as a cyber transport systems journeyman. He was in charge of keeping the internet working at air bases. According to officials, the 21-year-old is believed to be the leader of an online chat group where hundreds of photographs of both secret and top-secret documents were first uploaded. Calling itself the Thug Shaker Central, the group consists of 20 to 30 young men and teenagers with a fascination for guns, military gear, and video games. Teixeira will likely face charges under the Espionage Act, with each charge carrying a prison term of up to 10 years. And with prosecutors likely to treat each leaked document as a separate count in his indictment, he could face a very long jail sentence. Teixeira is set to appear at a Boston federal court on Friday to face charges related to the incident. Meanwhile, the Pentagon documents leak has led to tighter restrictions on who gets access to some of the U.S. military's top secrets. CNN reported that some U.S. officials who used to receive briefing materials on a daily basis have stopped receiving them in recent days. However, a senior defense official added that the restrictions may be temporary. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Staying in the U.S. wholesale price inflation saw a dramatic drop in March, and another sign that the country's price pressures are easing. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics on Thursday, producer prices last month increased by 2.7% on year, marking the lowest annualized increase for the index since January 2021, and also a significant drop from the 4.7% in February. On a monthly basis, producer prices dropped by 0.5%, largely on falling energy costs. And consumer price index for the month released on the previous day was also down. The Federal Reserve will likely take these into close consideration when making next month's rate decision. The International Monetary Fund said Thursday that South Korea's 2023 economic growth rate was lowered due to deteriorating semiconductor industry conditions and slowing domestic demand. Speaking at a press conference for the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, the IMF's Asia-Pacific Director, Krishna Srinivasan, cited a slowdown in consumption, austerity measures, and adjustments in the housing market after the COVID-19 crisis causing weaker domestic demand. But he also noted China's lifting of COVID borders will have a positive impact on South Korean economy. The IMF earlier this week lowered its outlook on South Korea's economic growth to 1.5%, down from its January forecast of 1.7%. Earlier this week, the remains of Korean independence activist Hwang Ki-hwan finally returned to South Korea from New York 100 years after his death. You may be more familiar with him as Mr. Sunshine, which is the name of the Korean drama about his life released in 2018. To talk more about this hero, we're joined by Reverend Chang Choru from New York. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. First off, can you tell us about Hwang Ki-hwan in terms of him being an independence activist?
Yes. He was 1919, the Paris Peace Conference attended as a secretary. The chairman was Kim Il-sung, and his Korea independence movement activity as well. And then after 3 months, Kim Il-sung left Paris to Shanghai, but Hwang Ki-hwan left there, and then he is almost 2 years. He is a movement of Korean independence to the European people, or who are the stay in Korea, in Korean people, and he organized the Korean Association in the Federation Committee, and then he made a magazine, the Korean Free Korean, by friends, and after during the 2 years. He is as a chair of the Korean community in Europe, the strong movement, also the propaganda, the Korean freedom. And he is, that time, he fight the Japanese government because some of Korean people liberal stay in Europe, but Japanese people take over to Japan but Mr. Hwang Ki-hwan fight them, and then 35 Korean people can stay in Europe as a permanent visa, the Paris or England. And then they can stay in Europe. So as that time, his age was 37 years old, very strongly activity for the Korean independence movement. So we didn't know that, but after we found his grave, then we know that. Also, the Ministry of Patriots and the Veterans Affairs does survey and research, and then amazing that he's working for the Korean independence movement and freedom.
Right. You just mentioned discovering his grave, the independence activist Hwang Ki-hwan. Can you talk about the discovery of the grave of the activist?
Oh yes, that I think this year of 2008. I was a Korean church as a minister. That time I found all our Korean church membership record. I found some of our old members where they died and buried. But Hwang Ki-hwan, only Hwang Ki-hwan, the road mark, where is a cemetery and when, even the grave number. So I called the young adults. Then we get together. Someday we found the cemetery. That is a Mount Olivet Cemetery. Then we're gonna check where is a Korean name. The stone. I don't know what we say. But maybe that time the thousand graves all over.
Right.
We couldn't find at that time.
So many, right?
So, and then the next time, I visit the office and then where's Mr. Hwang? And I checked his name in the books.
Wow.
Then where is West Lawn? He was West Lawn, the grave area. So we found West Lawn, and then one young man say, here is a Korean name, the Hwang Ki-hwan.
Right.
And also the Taehanin, Korean Hwang Ki-hwan, they say.
Wow.
But there's mark there. You watch that, or also the other Korean name, and then I found it.
That's impressive.
We surprised, really surprised. All over, more than 1,000 graves, all over the English, or sometimes Chinese, Japanese names.
Right.
But only it is Korean words over there.
Right.
So that is 2008.
Right.
Exciting. Very, very exciting. And then that time we didn't know the Hwang Ki-hwan was a famous
activist.
Activist. And then
also, right. Reverend, before we let you go, quickly, why do we need to remember Mr. Hwang Ki-hwan as an independent activist? I mean, why is his return so significant?
Oh, yes. And then we found it. I wrote, we found one of the Korean grave. There's maybe that time is 70 years ago. He died 1923, April 17 wrote there. So I announced it and write a newspaper, Hwang Daily newspaper. But
Right.
that's paper, that's news to Korea, and then Korean Hwang Daily newspaper also they catch it.
Right. So many stories surrounding the activist.
Beg pardon?
So many stories on the independent activist.
Oh yes.
Right.
But yes, that time we didn't know who is Hwang Ki-hwan, but after months, Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, when Secretary called me, we looking for the Hwang Ki-hwan, and you found the grave. Maybe it's not one same name or the other people. We don't know, but he wanna come here and check.
Right.
After 1 month, one member, the Minister of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, one member came to here. He checked. Oh, we found it. It is almost more than 10 years they're gonna research and wanna found Hwang Ki-hwan, but now we found it, and then.
Right, Reverend. We would love to keep you with us for more stories on the activists, but thank you so much for your time and insight and all the storytelling this morning.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my speaking English, there's some trouble.
No worries. It was perfect and it was more than enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
We turn to the latest on South Korea's plan to compensate the victims of Japan's wartime forced labor through funds procured domestically in the country. Now, more than half of the 15 victims in the compensation plan already have accepted or plan to accept the payments. This comes just around a month after Seoul made such proposal. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
The South Korean government has begun handing out compensation to Korean victims of Japan's wartime forced labor, a month after it revealed plans to compensate the victims through a third party. 2 have already received the compensation, 8 more will do so Friday.
As of Friday, April 14th, the government will have paid compensation and delayed interest to 10 families of the bereaved victims who expressed their willingness to accept the compensation.
As the official said, 10 out of a total 15 victims are receiving up to 200 to 280 million won, roughly about 150,000 to 210,000 US dollars. The official stressed that the families of the 10 victims have expressed strong hope that the issue of Japan's forced labor will be resolved as soon as possible. The remaining 5 victims have refused to receive the compensation and have been protesting strongly against the government's plan, saying this issue cannot be resolved without sincere apologies and participation from the Japanese companies. In early March, the South Korean government announced a plan to compensate the victims through domestic funds procured through a public foundation. This plan contradicts the 2018 ruling when South Korea's Supreme Court ordered 2 Japanese companies, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Nippon Steel, to compensate the Koreans they subjected to forced labor. These companies have refused to comply. The South Korean government says it will continue making efforts to meet each and every victim and find a way forward. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in Norway, where 15 Russian embassy officials are being expelled over allegations of espionage. Norway's foreign ministry said on Thursday that the diplomats were intelligence officers using their embassy positions as cover. Details of their activities have not been made public, but the ministry alleged that these activities were not in line with their diplomatic status. The expelled officials have been told to leave shortly. Russia's embassy in Norway has declared the move an extremely unfriendly step and has promised retaliation. The expulsions come 1 year after Norway expelled 3 other Russian diplomats on similar allegations. Another person suspected of using a false identity and working for Russian intelligence was also arrested last year. Turning over to Ghana, which has become the world's first country to approve a vaccine against malaria. Called R21, the vaccine developed at Oxford University has been described as a world changer in the fight against the disease. Ghana's Food and Drugs Authority gave the green light for the vaccine to be used on children aged 5 to 36 months. Malaria kills about 620,000 people per year, mostly children in Africa. The new vaccine is 77% effective and provides protection for 2 years. It requires 3 initial doses and a booster shot 1 year later. It's unknown when the vaccine will be officially distributed, as securing international funding requires the vaccine to be approved by the World Health Organization. Now, legendary British designer Dame Mary Quant has died at the age of 93. According to her family on Thursday, she died peacefully at her home. Quant was a leading fashion figure in the swinging 60s and is credited with making the miniskirt popular. Quant's approach to fashion was to put the spotlight on the youth. Her designs were simple and made use of bright colors. They were also more affordable than other designer brands and gave access to new items for women with an income. Quant was born in 1930 in London. Although she had no formal design training, she experimented with clothes from an early age. And finally, the world's oldest known gorilla has gone once more around the sun. The Berlin Zoo resident Fatau celebrated her 66th birthday on Thursday local time with a special feast of fruit and vegetables. She was even given a watermelon with her age carved into it. Her species, the western lowland gorilla, normally lives to the age of 45, meaning she needs a little extra care. She is usually fed softened vegetables to avoid the sugar in fruits. However, Fatau's official age is actually unknown. When she arrived at the zoo in 1959, she was estimated to be 2 years old. Fatau was previously owned by a sailor, but was traded to settle a bar tab in the French port city of Marseille.
Good morning. Some welcome news. The worst dust level of the season is finally weakening as rain is forecast to wash it away. Southern provinces are already having much improved air quality, but still, most of the central parts of the country are covered with a thick layer of dust with alerts remaining in place. Rain clouds are dropping rain on Jeju, which will gradually spread to the rest of the country and will continue to rain down mostly in southern parts of the country until Saturday. And the further south you are, the heavier the rain you will see. Mountainous regions on Jeju could receive more than 120 millimeters of rainfall along with thunder and lightning, with a preliminary rain advisory issued there. Morning temperatures are 4 to 7 degrees higher than yesterday, and highs will be hovering around 20 degrees in most parts. Seoul topping out at 20 degrees, which is about 3 degrees higher today. Daegu topping out at 21 degrees, which is about 4 degrees lower than Thursday. Now we'll see more cloudy skies than sunshine for the next 5 days with rain in the forecast across Korea. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is all we have for today's New Day at Arirang. Happy Friday.